Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are at. Welcome to Mentor Mornings, my friends. So have you found yourself during these times of unpredictability, uncertainty, feeling a certain degree of tension inside? Like, what's that one big thing inside of your life that's just kind of a major bummer? Let's get it resolved. Let's talk about how we can resolve that today. Booker T. Washington, he was a very prominent figure during the mid-1900s, advised presidents and made big changes. He says success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in his life, as by the obstacles he has overcome trying to succeed. Wow! So it's not about where we get. It's about the obstacles that we overcome trying to succeed. So John D. Rockefeller was an enormously, extremely wealthy man, and I think that we can learn something from him. So let's go back and check this out. John Rockefeller faced his first major financial collapse when he was 18. He'd only been working for a couple of years, and it was 1857. He was making about 50 cents a day. And when this collapse hit, there were businesses that were closing their doors all around him. Grain prices plummeted. Things looked pretty rough. And there were a lot of people acting irrationally. They were acting on fear, acting on greed. And Rockefeller decided that he was going to do something. He just continued to save his money, and he sat back and observed. He watched how people reacted. He watched what worked, and he watched what didn't. And he called this time, 1857, he called it the School of Adversity and Stress. He goes on to say, he says, "Oh, how blessed young men are who have to struggle for a foundation and beginning in life." And that's an interesting view, isn't it? So welcome Mentor Mornings, guys. If you appreciate this video, please hit the thumbs up button, share if you feel moved, and if you are not subscribed, do so. Every single day, 6 days a week, I bring you these Mentor Mornings to help you own your journey and fuel your day. So let's talk about this. One of the ways that people learn, the best ways that we learn is, as children, when we're growing up, we learn from the adults that are around us. We do something that's called modeling. And that's that we follow the behaviors and the patterns and the beliefs of the people that are most influential inside of our lives. That's one of the most powerful ways that we can learn. And when we want to change something inside of our lives as adults or as older people, this is still an extremely powerful way to learn. So we find somebody who has done something that we wish to do, and then we just model the behaviors that they did in order to get that thing. We just follow their footsteps. And so while we may not agree with who John D. Rockefeller was or what he did, or maybe we do, it's worth noting that the man was tremendously successful when it came to creating material abundance inside of this life. And so we can learn a couple of things from Rockefeller and in his pursuit of building wealth and power. And that's what I want to get into, is that during this time, there were really two things that we can learn from what Rockefeller did in his time frame. There's two perceptions that are worth covering. The first is that when Rockefeller stood back during that time, and he continued to do so, is that he recognized the power of what the masses were doing. Meaning that, like, the masses were emotionally reactive. They were mad in a way, and that only a sound and rational mind could profit from the uncertainty and the irrational nature of the market. And so he says only the rational and disciplined mind could profit from it. And because the market was unpredictable and speculation nearly always led to disaster. And so he stood back, he took that time to learn. So he created a rational and disciplined mind in times of uncertainty. The second perceptual filter that's really worth noticing is that he had a certain perceptual filter during times of uncertainty. And we can think about a perceptual filter, we can pretend like they're sunglasses. Like, we all are born with a certain set of sunglasses, and we kind of can change the shade or the color of them over time based upon where we position ourselves, through looking through these glasses or changing the color of the shades. And how we interpret the events that are coming at us from outside depends on where we're at as far as, like, what color shades are we wearing. Well, Rockefeller noticed that during times of uncertainty or upheaval, that a lot of people were coming from a state of emotional reaction. They were irrational, they were fear-driven, they were greed-driven, and because of that, they made choices that left them with less. And so Rockefeller had the perception that times of uncertainty and upheaval were times of great opportunity. And this is really interesting because it does things on a couple of different levels. When he was able to change that filter, suddenly he's looking at the world through a different lens. He's seeing things differently. There's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system that notices things that we bring into our awareness and our focus. So if you are shopping for, say, a red PT Cruiser, suddenly you're going to start noticing there's a lot more red PT Cruisers running around, where before you wouldn't have noticed that. So if we are able to manage our perception through discipline, then suddenly we'll see those things that are important to us. So, like Rockefeller, by saying that these times, changing that internal belief and the perception that times of uncertainty and challenge were times of great opportunity, he activated that part of his mind, and suddenly those opportunities, those chances for advancement became much more prominent inside of his awareness. And we can do the same thing. Managing our perceptions is a discipline that's totally worth our time, because emotional, illogical, fear-driven reactions and attitudes, they make us feel constricted. They make us feel tight. And if we're coming from that place, we're going to become very rigid. You think about if there was this huge windstorm out here inside of this field, and there was a lone tree out there by itself, and a massive windstorm came through. If that tree is rigid, it's unable to bend and move, it's going to break. And it's the same thing inside of our own lives. If we can become flexible, if we are fluid, we'll bend and move with the wind. And that is a worthwhile goal. So the tool that we can use in order to change our perceptions, to become more fluid and flexible in times of adversity and challenge, it's called reframing. And what it does is it takes us from where we're sitting and it moves. How did I put this? It moves our original stance, and we're able to reposition where we are. And it's super simple to do. The only thing that it does is it just requires a little bit of time to change our perceptions. So we do this by asking ourselves different questions. We ask questions that will shift our perception, change the color of our lens, and alter the way that we view the situation that we're in so that we respond differently. The questions that we can ask are like, what can I learn from this situation? What can I learn right now? And then to write it out. Another question would be, what can I gain from this? What would this look like if it were easy? Or what would I do if I wanted to fail? By mapping out, so we know, hey, if I do this, I am gonna screw up. So we know what's in front of us. So perception will change the flavor of our experience altogether. And the neat thing about this, guys, is that when stuff is falling apart all around us, the stuff that's outside, that's not in our control. We cannot respond to that. What we can respond to, though, is the perception and what it means to us, how we're going to respond. And we just do that by reframing. All right, guys, so if you want to learn how to create massive impact inside of your home, for yourself, in your community, your family, country, grab that free PDF down below inside the description. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow on Mentor Mornings. Once again, if you appreciate this, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you are not already, and I will see you tomorrow.